We need to fight machine speed with machine speed. That line stayed with me long after my conversation with Mandy Andress, Chief Information Security Officer at Elastic, the company powering search, observability, and security for organizations around the world. In this interview, we unpack how AI is accelerating cyber attacks beyond human response time, why API keys and non-human identities are becoming major blind spots, and what it really takes to defend modern digital infrastructure at scale. Let's dive into this fresh episode of Brew Talks. Hi, Mandy. Again, thank you so much for spending the time to speak to me. Mandy, I just want to directly dive into the cybersecurity bit and talk about how things have changed over time, with an emphasis on the data bit. Now, data has always been the ultimate target in cyber attacks. So, what do you think is fundamentally different about today's threat landscape that has made protecting data harder than ever for governments and enterprises?
Absolutely. Data has been and continues to be critical. And there's a few key things that have changed over the last, say, 5 to 10 years. First and foremost is just the amount of data that we have, that we are both needing to protect and that we are generating. And then also the scale at which the infrastructure has become more complex and continues to expand. And then the last component is the speed of threat actors, the speed at which technology has assisted in helping threat actors. Certainly AI is a piece of that, just be able to do more quickly. And so all of that combined has created a nice area for cybersecurity professionals to focus.
So AI has a huge role to play with the way things have unfolded now, right? So which brings me to the next question. So even attackers are clearly using automation and AI to a scale that is faster than humans can even react. So from what you're seeing globally, can you describe a bit more on how this AI is changing the nature of cyber threats today? And mostly from a practical point of view, not from a theoretical one.
Absolutely. AI is definitely changing the speed and subsequently the scale of attacks. We certainly saw it first about 2 years ago with phishing emails and saw them increase in both targeting, in sophistication. It's become very, very hard to identify a phishing message versus a regular message. Adding into that, deep fakes continues to make that more and more difficult. And the key thing there was being able to find and add context. So being able to very quickly analyze information on the internet, analyze information that's public or has been found in various data breaches, and able to craft very sophisticated, very targeted messages. And then that moved into just speed of processing attacks. So we are always being hit by vulnerability scans. Now we're able to do that much more frequently. And if something gets found, be able to automate attack paths. And now we're starting to see the ability for threat actors to have agents operating on their behalf, and they're able to then pivot and morph and self-evolve. So it's fully taking the human out of the loop on threat actors' activity. So as we need to continue to be able to defend at machine speed, and that's what we are focusing on as defenders with AI technology and security.
Got it. So can you elaborate a bit on how we can do that? What are some of the measures that we can take to counter these attacks?
Absolutely. We need to fight machine speed with machine speed, first and foremost. We need to move away from humans being the focus of action and reaction, and getting to a point where we can trust systems to make decisions and take actions on our behalf. That'll take some time, and unfortunately, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better from a defender's perspective. But that is focusing on understanding not just what to look for in an environment, because that'll get more and more difficult. Non-deterministic AI operations, you won't be able to necessarily fully anticipate what they might try or what they might do. So getting more into protecting very critical assets, getting more into canaries and things that are triggers to help you know if something is happening or being accessed that shouldn't be accessed. Focusing on behaviors as much as possible, just to understand, does an entity, whether that's an account, whether that's a system, does it suddenly start behaving differently from it normally does? So a trigger to investigate, to see what's happening. And there'll be more along the way. I think we're going to be in a significant era of change from a security perspective over the next few years.
Got it, Mandy. And say from the customers that you speak to, do you see any pattern in the kind of risks and threats that they are having? Something where you really need to come in to solve this particular aspect of a cybersecurity threat?
I say the themes of the threats are aligned to the problems that we're speaking about. First is data, the ability to analyze massive amounts of data very quickly. So that's one thing that Elastic is extremely strong at, and the core of the original Elasticsearch technology. So that's one. And second is being able to apply machine learning, AI capabilities into that analysis as well. So Elastic, with the agent builder and workflows and attack discovery, is able to take the job of a security analyst and apply AI approaches, AI automation, and really help amplify the both power and speed of existing SOC analysts within a team to help bridge that gap in kind of the first step into being able to operate more at machine speed.
Okay. Mandy, for CISOs heading into 2026 this year, what's the one emerging risk you think is still being underestimated today? Something that leaders are not paying enough attention to yet. I know you listed out what are the common patterns, but do you see something which they're probably not looking?
I think we talk a lot about identity and access management being a pain point, being something that we struggle with, something that we should be doing better. I think we are missing the real criticality that will bring into our environment as we start to take advantage of agentic AI and automation. We're going to have an explosion of identities, and we don't have the solutions, we don't have the infrastructure in place to do that well today. And being able to then, have exponential growth in the number of identities, I think that will create some risks and some challenges that we're not paying sufficient attention to today as we start on this journey of change for the cybersecurity industry.
And how do you think we can get the people to kind of focus on these issues as well?
I think underlying a lot of the change that is in progress and more to come is the underlying, I would say, people side of things. So education, and that's cybersecurity professionals, that's everyone in an enterprise, anyone that handles and works with technology, just to understand both what are the new dynamics now that we're in an AI-driven world, what are things to watch for, what are things to worry about, what are things to consider. It brings a very different way of working. And I think as we go through that transition, we'll have new attack vectors that come forward that we're just not thinking about right now. And so the key thing is for folks to be adaptable and to be ready to change quickly, more quickly than we ever have. The pace of change is only going to continue to increase from what it has been. And the key to that is as humans being able to not necessarily keep full pace with that change, but being open and being receptive that we know that it's coming.
Okay. You mentioned about AI agents now. We're seeing a rise of AI agents and threats related to that also going up. So we're seeing a significant rise in API key breaches, right? Where attackers, they just don't break in, they log into your systems. So in cases like this, typically what goes wrong first? Is it the visibility, the identity controls, or the detection? And why are these breaches so hard to catch early?
Yeah, API keys, secrets, access tokens, they're hard to catch early because in our current approach to security monitoring and detection, we're looking for certain bad behaviors. And a login to a valid API key is not anything that's unusual. We expect that to happen. What's unusual is maybe where that login is coming from. Maybe it's unusual then what that system that API key accesses then starts to do. So one, that's where we get into behavior analytics, anomalous behavior, to help identify where there are changes or deviations from baseline. So that's one on the future, or at least evolution, that we need to take from a detection perspective. Why it's happening, non-human identities, API keys, all of those components of what we know today as a modern cloud-based service offering is not something that's been a focus for security. Yes, we've had API gateways and we know kind of the basics, but what we haven't been focusing on is always the hygiene, always the zero trust, least privilege approach, applying all of the same principles that we talk about human identities and traditional service accounts, but the same things need to apply in the modern world of expansion of API keys, access tokens, and all of the, I would say, cloud-focused accounts and capabilities that have come forth.
So what are your views on the current Moltbook fiasco that we read about last week, where agents just going rogue, or even things like the API keys of the users were just out there?
Absolutely. I've said a lot the last few months that it's going to get worse before it gets better, and Moltbook's a great example of that coming to life. We're just going to see more of that, and we're going to have, unfortunately, I think there's going to be some key issues and potentially serious events that happen as we make this transition. Threat actors can always move much faster than an enterprise in being able to shift an approach, and for enterprises, shift a control structure, roll out new approaches. And while we recognize that and we need to take action, it'll take a little bit of time. And so we'll have a window there where we will need to be extra vigilant.
Got it. But also, can we say that humans are also enabling these kind of incidents?
Humans, I'm in the same, love technology, love to try new technology, so certainly trying things out. And as with any new technology that humans have developed, and it's from certainly go to internet, mobile, cloud, security is not the first thing, or even sometimes a primary component of what gets included. And we're already starting to see that in a lot of the AI capabilities and things coming in, just not having that security functionality that we would expect baked in. And so with that, we're not enabling users to be able to safely, or as best as we can today, securely utilize technology. And so that's something that, one, we're going to have to hold ourselves accountable for. And by ourselves, I mean those that are developing solutions, those that are creating these new AI-focused technologies. We should set the expectation on them. They should be developing proper security controls, kind of help protect us while they're creating this new paradigm.
Got it. And like you said, you like to experiment. Would you make an agent and give it access to Moltbook?
You make an agent and give it access to Moltbook. I probably would in some way to try it out, and I could have a test environment, something that I could at least know that there's minimal to no activity from a kind of threat perspective. But it's fascinating, and it's interesting to see, and just talking to folks that are working on the front lines of agents, and the things that they get surprised by. An agent tasked with one objective decides that the EDR on the system that it's running on isn't letting it do its action, so it's going to try to hack the EDR so it can bypass it and take the action that it wants to take, and just more of that coming. And it's scary and fun all at the same time.
Interesting. Let's just talk a bit about Elastic. Elastic sits at the intersection of observability and security, right? Giving teams visibility into how systems and data behave. So from what you're seeing, are there any distinct attack patterns? I know you touched upon this before, but this is more from an India-centric angle. Do you
Mhm.
see any particular patterns of attacks or threat behaviors or security blind spots emerging in markets like India, especially with the cloud and AI adoption accelerating? Is there any pattern or trend that you see with India in focus?
The trends that I'm seeing are continued deep focus on speed and scale. And speed and scale, uh, while it's not specific threat activities, the amalgamation of different threat actor activities or the volume of threat actors and being able to drive their activities in a much more complex and a much faster way. The trend is not just that we're going to see more and see more coming at us faster. We're going to see more coming at us faster in complex environments. And so in India has continued to expand digital footprints, continuing to expand complexity of environments. That's just creating that much more surface for us as defenders to need to protect, and that much more of a threat landscape for attackers to try to take advantage of.
Okay. And Mandy, just one last question. I want to understand, do you have any predictions in the cybersecurity landscape that will drastically change in the way organizations and enterprises function when it comes to security? That is one, predictions. Oh, sorry, just one is prediction, and one is what do you want to see in the future that would probably help reduce all these kind of attacks and stuff?
Absolutely. So from a prediction perspective, I think there will be a complete shift in how we look at security. I think a complete 180, how we think about security, how we approach it will be dramatically different. And the prediction for me is 5 to 10 years from now, looking back on today's time and seeing it as a bit of the dark ages of security and wondering how could we have ever been even remotely successful because we don't have the capabilities, we don't have the technology that allow us to be more effective in the future. So that's my prediction. For what I want it to do, for me, it's the mundane things. It's the managing my calendar. It is taking care of the various components and just the daily life things. It would be awesome to have something, whether it's an agent or something else in the future, taking care of those. And for me, because I love technology, giving me more time to play around with new stuff.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you, Mandy, for the time to speak to me. And
it's great to chat with you.